What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Rookie 9 find out Naruto is an Anbu? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. It's a big day in the academy. This is the day where all the academy graduates are assigned to their teams. This is where our story begins. Good morning graduates, stated Iruka as he looked out at the group of potential ninja before him. This group of young ninja was a very special one indeed. There were many here he could see succeeding in their profession. Good morning Iruka-sensei, responded the class happily as if their grins weren't enough to show the excitement. But Iruka was just surprised and slightly disappointed that he didn't have to use his patented big head just to quiet them down. Well, today's the day where all of you will go out into the world as shinobi and kunoichi of the Konohagakure, and I couldn't be more proud of each and every one of you, Iruka proclaimed with pride. I have your team assignments right here, he said while pulling out a folder from under his arm. Team 1 is, Iruka continued to state teams until. Team 7 is Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno. Here Iruka expected a shout of joy from the former name called or a shriek of horror from the latter, but to his surprise he got nothing, and Sasuke Uchiha. Iruka braced himself again. Your sensei is Kakashi Hatake. This time his effort wasn't in vain as most of the female side of the class screamed in denial of how their precious Sasuke-kun wasn't on their team. Iruka winced in pain along with most of the male portion of the class except for Shino, who was Shino, Sasuke, who was brooding, and Naruto, who to everyone's envy was pulling his earplugs out. Iruka's surprise this time came from the girls that didn't shriek, who included Hinata Hyuga. Not surprising, he thought. Ino Yamanaka, this freaked him out. And Sakura Haruno, who wasn't shouting in joy, this almost gave him a heart attack. Iruka shook off his shock and continued. Team 8 Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, and Shino Aburame. Your sensei is Kurenai Yuhi. Team 9 is still in circulation. Team 10 is Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi, and Ino Yamanaka. Your sensei is Asuma Sarutobi. Now your senseis will be here momentarily, Iruka said with a nervous smile for fear of another surprise that would send him over the edge and to the hospital. Iruka started to walk out of the room when there came a call. Iruka-sensei, called Naruto. Iruka, still wanting to leave as soon as possible, decided to get it over with. Yes, Naruto? Iruka-sensei, I have an announcement for the class if that's okay, replied Naruto. Iruka sighed. Very well, but please make it brief. Don't worry sensei, I'll make it quick, Naruto told Iruka as he turned to the class. Oi! Mina, it's time, Naruto screamed. Iruka, generally confused by the proclamation, chose to voice his thoughts. Hey Naruto, what do you mean? Iruka started but was cut off by 8 other voices roaring with laughter among the stupefied class. He looked up and saw the ones laughing were the clan heirs, Eris, and Sakura. When he turned back to Naruto, he saw that Naruto wore a look of glee, knowing, mischief, and maybe insanity. Well, it's about time, Ino, Sakura, and Hinata, of all people, harmonized. Yes, it would have been illogical to postpone this announcement any longer, Shino concluded. Whatever, at least the waits over the whole thing was troublesome. Grumbled Shikamaru. Don't say that Shikamaru, you know why we had to wait, reasoned Choji. Seriously, this was a blast though, exclaimed Kiba. Arf, barked Akamaru, agreeing from atop his partner's head. Can we just get this over with? Sighed Sasuke. If Iruka wasn't confused before, he sure was now as he watched them get up from their seats and join Naruto in front of the class and line up next to him, Sasuke and Sakura on his left and right respectively. Team 8 on his left, Team 10 on right. Naruto glanced at them and asked, is everyone ready? They all nodded and Sasuke quipped, not scared are you Dobi? Naruto grinned. Not on your life Teme. Iruka-sensei, brace yourself. Gigi, I know you're watching, so get ready, Naruto boasted. Hokage's office. The aged Hokage watched bewildered at what was happening. He was especially surprised that Naruto could tell he was watching them. Sharing in his surprise were all the Jonin senseis. Asuma's wide-eyed reaction to Naruto's statement simple asked, how'd he know? Kurenai was still processing what was happening. Guy was in the background shouting about the flames of youth Naruto was showing. While Kakashi lowered his little orange book and went, All the other Jonin were simply watching with anticipation and some shock at what would happen next. The Hokage gazed into his crystal ball and thought, well Naruto, you have our attention, so what are you and your friends going to do? Classroom. As if Naruto had read the aged Hokage's mind, he said, let's do this. With that signal they all closed their eyes, raised their right hands over their left shoulders with 2 fingers pointed, and slowly lowered their arms across their bodies in unison, whispering Ninpo. False reality. When their arms finally reached the end of their course they proclaimed Kai. As soon as those words were uttered, a massive flash and wave of chakra ripped through the air, alerting all those in the village that something had happened that would change all their lives forever. Back in the classroom, as the flash subsided, the result astounded everyone present. Each of the 9 had undergone an incredible transformation. On the far right was Ino. She was slightly taller, previously 4 inches 9. She now stood at 5 inches 1. She still had her bang and ponytail but had a blood-red streak going down it while wearing a black fedora with the Kahona symbol on the front left of it. Her top had changed into a red and green striped sweater that sewed her ample chest. It had one sleeve torn off, showing the fishnet she wore underneath it. Her skirt turned into black pants and black steel toe boots. She had a black fingerless glove with a metal plate on the back on the hand with the fishnet sleeve, but on the other arm she had a disturbing clawed glove. The glove itself was brown and showed her palm, yet attached to each finger except the thumb were razor-sharp blades that looked like they could easily tear through flesh, and on the back was the kanji for nightmare. On the far left was what most people thought was Shino, only this guy looked nothing like him. In fact, he didn't even look human. He stood at 5 inches 4 tall. He had black segmented armor covering his torso, the Kahona symbol etched into his right pectoral, legs, feet, and left arm. A helmet covered his head and neck. Think Alex Mercer Protop armor. I do not own prototype. His left hand was clawed, but his right arm drew everyone's attention. It looked like the head of some strange insect creature. It was elongated, no eyes, and sharp teeth. Alien's head. The kanji for ancients on his left shoulder and alien on his right shoulder were glowing a menacing green on the left pectoral. The final touch that caused a few of the weaker graduates to faint was the long spiny tail with a bladed end. Choji, who was standing next to Ino, still looked like himself, only his hair was longer, reaching down to his mid-back and in a ponytail. He was wearing a suit of armor most would associate with samurai instead of ninja, with the Kahona symbol in the dead center of the chest plate, Shippuden outfit, next to the kanji for Atlas. Only the side of his shirt wore open down to near the bottom, showing he was actually quite ripped, and he was as tall as Shino. On his belt was a set of 6 storage scrolls. He may not seem like much now, but I have plans for him that will be revealed soon. Kiba was in a word wild while standing next to Shino. He was the tallest in the group at 5 inches 5. He was wearing a large loincloth that thankfully covered a lot. He also had a vest that looked as if it were made of cheetah's skin. His hair was longer, going around his ears, which were pointed and reaching between his shoulders, with 2 large clumps reaching over his shoulders and down his chest. He had a dark tan skin tone. The kanji for Beast King was proudly shown on his left bicep, the Kahona symbol embroidered in the cheetah vest. He wore gauntlets that, while clawed, had 2 spikes jutting out, and over his hands, shredder claws, only brown. Also, I don't own TMNT. His partner Akamaru was not the same puppy he once was. Now he was just under Kiba's knee in height and looked much more like a wolf than a dog. His muzzle was longer, his fur was completely white, no brown ears. Speaking of ears, they were pointed on top of his head. His eyes were sharp and looked like he was always ready to attack. He finally had black ninja tape tied around each leg. The last member of Team 10 between Sasuke and Choji was Shikamaru. He was still slouching but stood a respectable 5 inches 3. For his age, his face was more angular with wild long black hair. He wore a black suit, pants, steel toe boots, a white undershirt, red tie, and a black trench coat with a hood pulled back. He had an X-shaped scar on his chin and was even paler. Not Sai-level pale, but still really pale. If one looked close enough they could see that his coat seemed to move on its own and as if it absorbed all the light near it. The final member of Team 8 was Hinata. Now she threw people for a loop. She stood at 5 inches even and wore a dark purple combat dress with tiny skulls on the rim. It showed ample cleavage while still looking reserved, matching purple gloves that reached all the way up to her mid-bicep. Knee-high combat boots with white ninja tape covering the rest of her legs. She still had a minor blush on her face, showing she was still a little shy but was much more confident in herself even while sitting on a floating scythe. Wait, what? They all thought, but lo and behold, she was sitting on what could be called one of the most badass weapons they had ever seen. It was a large scythe with a black shaft that was slightly curved and seemed to be made of scales. The blade was black and silver but had greenish veins pulsating on it. The blade itself was sticking out of an ivory-white draconic skull with emerald green flames in the eye sockets with a single black flame in the middle that was shaped like a diamond. Some would swear to this day that it was staring at them. Hint hint. Now on to Team 7. Member 1 is Sakura, standing at 5 inches 1. She was wearing a skin-tight black and pink form suit that showed off her chest and curves very well. I honestly don't know how to describe this, so if someone could help by PMing me a description or just look up Silver Banshee A.N. I don't own anything from the DC universe. Her hair was extremely long, reaching her knees. It was hot pink with 2 black stripes going down the middle. What drew the most attention to her were the 5 orbs embedded in her arm. Each was a different color, one red, another blue, the third brown, fourth yellow, and fifth green. Attached to her back was a kodachi that had a bubblegum pink hilt with a black blade. Sasuke was next. He was 5 inches 4 tall and wore a leather jacket with spiked shoulders, black pants, black steel toe boots. No undershirt showing his muscles. He had a chain with a spiked end tied around his chest from his left shoulder to right hip, the kanji for Hell's Bounty Hunter tattooed on his chest. Finally, it was Naruto's turn. He was unexpectedly normal, all things considered, standing at 5 inches 3, but was wearing a black undershirt, red jacket with black interior, black pants, and belt with red fox head buckle. His hair was grown out to the bottom of his neck with 2 bangs framing his face, which reminded a lot of people of the Yondaime Hokage. On his left collarbone was the kanji for 9 masks. On the right one was the kanji for Gravekeeper, manga called Cerberus. I do not own any aspect of it. Final, he had a pair of chakram, Axel's chakrams. I don't own Final Fantasy. They were red and black, had 4 small circles intersecting one large circle, and had 8 arrow head points. These were on his back. What the fuck is going on? Thought everyone that was either present or listening in, as what they were thinking was evident based on the fact that all their jaws were currently getting very well acquainted with the floor. Well, Naruto suddenly spoke rather cheerfully after a few minutes of putting up with their shocked silence. What do you all think? Hokage's office. Everyone in the office was shocked, speechless at what had just transpired. When they saw Ino, they were surprised. Shino scared most of them, Choji confused them, Kiba and Akamaru disturbed them, Shikamaru creeped them out, Hinata shocked them and caused Kurenai to faint from shock. Sakura was strange. Sasuke and Naruto had gotten the same reaction of surprise of how ordinary they actually looked. The only things that all of them had was that the equipment they had was obviously Anbu level, though how they got it eluded the spectators. Anbu! Roared the Hokage, snapping everyone in the room out of their trance. Bring me those 9 now. Oi! Gigi! Screamed Naruto, stopping the Hokage and Anbu in their tracks as they turned towards the crystal ball. I know you're about to send Anbu to come and get us, said the blonde. It won't be necessary, though we'll come to you so you can ask your questions. Okay, be there in a few. How did he know? Thought the Hokage. Anbu, stand down, commanded the aged leader. Hi Hokage-sama, replied the Anbu. Classroom. Well, guy and gals, spoke Naruto, addressing the class. It's been fun and all, crushing every bit of your sanity, but we got to go, so later. All present thought he said that a little too happily. Here we come, Gigi Ninpo. Coffin shushin. A large coffin broke out of the ground, opened, and Naruto levitated inside. When it closed, it sank as quickly as it appeared. Later, said Sakura. Ninpo. Sound shushin. Sakura's body turned to sound waves and dissipated in a high-pitched shriek that disorientated a lot of people. Damn that girl and her sound. Just you, grumbled Kiba. Come on Akamaru. Ninpo. Yin-yang shushin. Kiba's and Akamaru's bodies turned into a black and white light respectively, then fused together, forming a yin-yang symbol in mid-air, and it shrank until it was gone. They won't have yin-yang release. Troublesome, Shikamaru sighed. Ninpo. Black hole shushin. Shikamaru's shadow shot up into the air, started to spin, and formed a black hole which he then jumped in, and it closed behind him. Lazy ass, grumbled Ino. Ninpo. Nightmare shushin. This scared the living shit out of everyone except the rest of the 9, as the thing they fear most appeared where Ino was for a split second. Why can't we get along? Complained Choji. Ninpo. Flash Shushin. Choji literally disappeared in a flash. It would be illogical to keep them waiting any longer, Shino rationalized. Ninpo. Millipede Shushin. Giant millipedes burst through the floor wrapped around Shino and dragged him underground, freaking people out. Sasuke spoke. Ninpo. Mini nuke Shushin. Sasuke literally blew up in a mushroom cloud of black smoke. No one dies from Sasuke's Shushin unless he wants them to, only then is his Shushin deadly. Thank you for all you've done, Iruka-sensei, now I must be going. Stated Hinata. Ninpo. Rapid decay Shushin. This Shushin would give people nightmares for years and many would need therapy because of it. Everyone was forced to watch as Hinata withered and aged until she was nothing but a skeleton that soon turned to dust that blew away in the breeze. That was the final straw that broke the camel's back after Hinata's corpse had blown away, and a few moments passed. The entire remaining class screamed so loudly that the entire elemental nations heard it and pitied the poor souls that unleashed such fearful screams. Hokage's office. The Hokage had dismissed all Jonin but Kurenai, Kakashi, and Asuma, who stood against the wall trying to awaken Kurenai again after she woke up just to see the girl she loved like a sister turn to dust. Then they showed up in all their various Shushins: a coffin, sound waves, yin-yang sign, black hole, nightmare, flash, millipedes, mini nuke, and reverse decay, much to Kurenai's relief. Hi Gigi, so what do you want to know? Naruto asked, getting right to the point. Tell me everything now, replied the Hokage seriously. Hokage's office. So where do I begin? Naruto wondered while standing in front of the Hokage's desk. Well, the beginning is always a good place, don't you think? Added the Hokage as he waited for an explanation. I guess that's as good as any time, Naruto responded with a shrug. Okay, so about 2 years ago. Flashback. A 10-year-old Naruto was walking home from the academy, orange jumpsuit and all. Normally he would be thinking about how he would show his love to Sakura-chan the next day, but today was October 10th, his birthday, and he hated it. Today was the day everyone was even more hateful and didn't bother hiding it like the rest of the year. Why he was hated he didn't know. What he did know was that the villagers would be on the prowl tonight and they would be after his blood. Naruto sighed at the morbid thoughts that crossed his mind, no matter how true they were. Naruto was so lost in his thoughts that he lost track of time, and before he realized it, dusk had come. Shit, Naruto cursed. There's the demon, get him! Screamed a random villager from the mob right behind him. The second Naruto heard that, he bolted in the opposite direction, running as fast as he could, which, considering he could outrun Anbu, was pretty fast. He still couldn't understand how they caught him as much as they do, but these thoughts didn't help his current situation. Die, demon! Finish him! Kill the beast! Were a few of the numerous shouts from the mob, who, while not gaining on him, also weren't losing him. As Naruto was running for his life, all of a sudden a kunai went zooming by his head. Fuck, they got ninja to help. Naruto cursed his luck. Even if he didn't know why he was hated, he knew most of the ninja population at least ignored him, but there were always those who hated him, and the fucking mob got them to help. After another hour of running, the only members of the mob left were the ninja, all of whom were chunin by the looks of it. Naruto took a wrong turn while pondering what rank they were and into the arms of another chunin with short white hair with a bandana and a blank mask covering his whole face. Well, what do we have here? A demon out for a stroll? The man sneered as he grabbed Naruto harshly by the hair. Ow, let me go, Naruto screamed as he was dragged towards the other ninja that were chasing him earlier. Shut up, demon, you, me, and these fine fellows are going to play a game, and you know what it's called? The man asked in a gleeful voice despite his obvious intentions. It's called who can make the demon scream the loudest. This caused Naruto to pale as he watched in silent horror as the men got out their kunai and approached him. Then it began. They pounced at him. 3 of the chunin held him down as the masked one drew his kunai and thrust it into his stomach, and repeated this until he was tired of it. Naruto had not screamed yet, refusing to give him the pleasure of what he wanted, so the man was beyond pissed. So 50-something stabs to the torso and you won't scream? I guess I'll up the ante, he said, pulling out a vial filled with a blood-red liquid. This little concoction is a special poison that will activate all of the pain receptor in your body while also causing excessive bleeding and an adrenaline rush, so it will keep you awake so you can feel all the pain and then some. He then drove the vial into Naruto's arm and almost instantly it began. Naruto's eyes widened as unimaginable pain coursed through his body. The masked man had his partners release Naruto, so they dropped him, causing a new wave of pain, and the masked man slit Naruto's wrists and blood started pooling around him. After this they started to beat him with their fists. This continued for a couple more hours before the adrenaline stopped pumping, bleeding slowed, and the pain started to dull. Naruto's breathing was ragged, jumpsuit shredded, covered in blood, and on the verge of death. Naruto barely had the energy to look up. When he did, he saw the men were staring down at the battered, bruised, and bloody boy with sick pleasure at what they had done. Then the masked one spoke. So the demons as good as dead were almost done here. One of the three other Chunin looked at the masked man confused and asked, "What are you taking about Mizuki?" That was as far as the man got before the newly named Mizuki cut his throat. The other two Chunin were shocked at what he had done, so Mizuki used this and charged them, shoving kunai into their hearts. He then turned to Naruto proclaiming, "Can have any witnesses, can we?" He used his already bloody kunai from slashing his fellow Chunin's throat and threw it at Naruto as he left, not even bothering to check if he had finished the job, because if he had he would have seen the kunai had missed Naruto and hit the wall next to him. When he was gone, Naruto finally passed out as darkness claimed him. He heard a cry of Naruto. Present time. "It was Mizuki that did that to you," roared the Hokage as he listened to Naruto. "Yes, but that's beside the point now, please don't interrupt until the end, Gigi," Naruto replied. "Very well, Naruto-kun," finished the Hokage. "Okay, now where was I? Ah yes, I had just woke up," started Naruto. Flashback. Mindscape. Naruto woke up in a sewer? Great, as if leaving me hurt in an alley wasn't bad enough. He thought, depressed, then he noticed something: he wasn't harmed anymore. What the hell? Naruto wondered as he checked himself over. When he saw he was okay, he looked around the sewer and saw pipes. Some were pumping blue and some red. May as well follow them, maybe they will lead me out of here, Naruto reasoned. So Naruto followed the pipes for what seemed like forever until he found himself in what looked like a prison cell for a gained, and strangely he heard snoring. Wait, snoring? Naruto questioned as he peered beyond the cell bars. All he saw was black, so he picked up a rock that was next to him and tossed it in between the bars. He heard it hit something. When he heard the snoring stopped abruptly, Naruto wondered what could snore so loudly. "Hello?" questioned Naruto as he continued to watch the dark interior of the cage. As soon as he said that, two huge slit red eyes opened, scaring the hell out of him, which was evident based by his scream of terror. Screamed Naruto. "Oh, I kid, stop already," spoke the voice. Continued Naruto. The voice, not wanting to put up with this any longer, took a deep breath and that shut Naruto up and sent him on a one-way trip to the wall. "Itai!" yelled Naruto as he held his head in pain. "Great, now that you've shut up, who are you, kid, and where's Kushina?" asked the voice. "Who am I, who are you, where are we, and who's Kushina?" exclaimed Naruto. "In order, yes, who are you?" "I am Kurama the Kyuubi no Kitsune." Kurama show his impressive form, 9 tails and all, almost making Naruto go comatose. "If I had to hazard a guess, I'd say I was extracted from Kushina, who was my Jinchuiki, and sealed into you, so we are in your mindscape." Seeing Naruto's confusion, "The place where mind meets soul, okay?" Naruto nodded. "Wait, if this is my mindscape and you're here, then?" A look of realization appeared on Naruto's face, then horror, because now he knew why he was hated, then for some reason confusion, and finally he shook his head. "Well, kid, what's on your mind?" commented Kurama, seeing the montage of emotions shown by Naruto. "I am thinking the villagers are idiots," replied Naruto, shocking Kurama as he expected Naruto to explode with anger or start crying in despair. "Why?" Kurama asked, confused. "Simple, now I know why I am hated. It's because you're sealed in me, but you don't seem like a bad guy regardless of the stories told about you. I mean, the only thing you have done so far is get me to stop screaming. Granted, your method was rather blunt, but seriously, they think I'm you. They're idiots, blind fucking idiots. Do I look like a 50-story fox with 9 tails? No. I'll give them the whisker marks, but other than that I see no resemblance," explained Naruto. This boy, no man in front of Kurama, had him stupefied, plain and simple, but he had gained some of his respect. Now let's see if he can gain more. So do you hate them or what? Questioned Kurama, interested in where this was going. Well, I'd be lying if I said I like them, but I don't hate them. I understand that they are sad about what happened 10 years ago, but to use me as a scapegoat was low, so low it's freaking ridiculous. I won't say that I won't forgive them with time, but for the time being I need to get stronger and fast so I can defend myself. What about me? Continued Kurama. I thought I already said you seem like a cool guy regardless of the stories, but I can't make assumptions based on what I've heard unless I know the whole story, otherwise I'd be no better than the villagers. Concluded Naruto. Kid, you just earned a lot of my respect, and let me tell you that is not easy, so as a show of trust I'll tell you about my history and help you get stronger, but don't expect it to be instant, otherwise you will be disappointed and you will lose the respect I have for you, warned Kurama. I am more insulted you think I wouldn't work for the power. I am not an Uchiha, just so you know, told Naruto. Speaking of Uchiha, let's get to my history, spoke Kurama. So Kurama told Naruto his history up until his birth. And the last thing I remember is that blasted Sharingan, concluded Kurama. By the sound of it you were extracted during my birth, like you said earlier, by that masked Uchiha and hypnotized into attacking the village, reasoned Naruto. You don't seem surprised by knowing your parents are heritage, and you act a lot smarter than you make yourself out to be. Why? Asked a perplexed Kurama. Oh, that's because I already knew who my Two-san was. I mean, come on, who couldn't see the resemblance? And don't get me wrong, I am ecstatic at the knowledge of who my Ka-san was, but at the same time I am sad I will never get to meet them. Also the part about me being smarter, well, ninja rule number 1, deception is your best friend and your enemy's worst nightmare. Finished Naruto with a smirk. Kurama burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha, leave it to the one who looks the least like a ninja to act the most like one, ha 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 ha. After hearing this and thinking it over, Naruto joined him in laughing his ass off. When they finished their laughing fits, they sat there staring at each other for a minute. Well kid, our time's almost up here, so anything else you want to know? Asked Kurama, happy for the first time in centuries. Well, how would I talk to you when I'm not here? How will you help me get stronger, and is there any way to make this place less terrifying? Inquired Naruto. Kurama was confused by the last question but answered regardless, well, I will establish a mental link between us so when you leave we can talk. I will give you a power, and what that it depends you and your personality, and for the final question I suppose you just imagine it and it appears. Okay, said Naruto happily as he closed his eyes. Kurama was about to ask what he was doing but stopped when he saw what was happening to the mindscape. It was transforming into the ultimate bachelor pad, giant plasma screen TV, comfy sofa, a freakin' bar, and every video game system known to man and some only to dolphins, and in this case foxes. Kurama was in a word awed. He turned toward Naruto to see the cage was gone and he had a collar with the kanji for seal on it. He didn't know what to say, so he did the next best thing for a being of his stature in this situation. He squealed like a fangirl and hopped on the couch, not even caring how he acted or that Naruto was shocked by said actions. Thanks kid, this is the nicest thing anyone has done for me in a long time, thanked Kurama, the biggest grin ever on his face that would normally unnerve people, but Naruto saw that it was a show of thanks and smiled himself. He then started to phase out of existence. Well, looks like our time here is up. See you later Naruto. By the way, don't tell the Hokage what happened, I'll explain later, okay? Kurama said with so much pleasure it was practically gushing out. Okay, see y'all later Kurama ni-san, spoke Naruto as he completely vanished from his mindscape, leaving a shocked Kurama. So ni-san, let's see if I can live up to that oto, yawned Kurama as he vowed to live up to the name and went to sleep for a few hours. End flashback. Everyone in the office was shell-shocked at this information, even the rest of the Rookie 9, as while they knew of the Kyuubi being sealed in Naruto, they didn't know all of this. HMMPH, seems they still don't believe you, Tuto, said Naruto's jacket. Wait a minute, his jacket spoke. Yes, I spoke and I'm not a jacket, said the jacket as it morphed to form a fox's head, namely Kurama's. It looked like he was made of blood-red flames, his eyes and teeth. The only thing that weren't, Naruto had gained claws on his hands and feet that looked like they were made of the same flames. This is from a manga called Cerberus, seriously look it up, it is amazing, PS I don't own it. Kyuubi, shouted the adults in the room as they saw said fox. Naruto was so happy the Hokage put up those silencing seals when they got here. What the hell? Shouted the rest of the Rookie 9. They knew Naruto's power had something to do with Kyuubi, but Naruto never showed them what his power was. Naruto told you my name, so I suggest you use it, said Kurama with sigh. By the way, why do you call me ni-san? I never got to ask, asked Kurama. Well, we were both in my mother at some point, so I figured we had a kind of connection like that, explained Naruto. All the able-bodied people in the room facepalmed at this, while Kurama's eye began to tick at the thought of being Kushina's child, but soon began to chuckle at Naruto's reasoning. Leave it to you to defuse the situation with an answer like that, but I appreciate the sentiment behind it, spoke Kurama. Well, that's all well and good, and we will speak of your heritage in a minute, Naruto. Everyone else's eyes widened as they had forgotten that tidbit of information. Now tell me how you got these 8 to train with you and where their new powers and appearances came from, commanded the aged Hokage. Alright, old man, that's actually easier to explain, said Naruto. That started around a year and a half ago. Flashback. It had been about 3 months since Naruto had met Kurama, and he had to say Kurama knew what he was doing when it came to ninja training. Naruto had questioned where he got this knowledge. Kurama said he wasn't just sitting around twiddling his thumbs while in his previous hosts. While in the academy, Kurama had told Naruto to keep up his idiotic mask, which while he was reluctant he did agree. So far Kurama had taught Naruto tree walking, which Kurama was still laughing his, as Naruto put it, fuzzy orange ass off at Naruto's first few attempts, shadow clones which were Kami sent for Naruto, and the beginning stances for his mother and father's taijutsu styles, the Uzukin and hummingbird styles. One relied on circular motions and random attacks to throw the enemy off balance and then destroy, while the other focused on speed and precision to end the fight quickly. Naruto hoped to combine the two one day soon so he could make his own style. He was already a stealth prodigy in Kurama's words, but he upped the ante and started pranking high-level ninja that were nice to him until he and Kurama were sure that he could get in and out of anywhere with no one knowing it was him or that he was there. When he reached this level, he started to prank those who hated him while also taking what was necessary for him to live, like food, cloths, and small amounts of money here and there. However, during one of his escapades to the Hyuga compound, as he was leaving, he heard a gasp and squeak. He turned to see Hinata Hyuga staring at him. He was shocked she had seen him and mentally berating himself with Kurama's help at being seen. Naruto-kun, what are you doing here? Questioned Hinata in a voice that was barely above a whisper. Sorry Hinata, I can't explain right now, got to run, see you later, Naruto answered, and with that he dashed off. Hinata, however, had other plans now. Hinata was the definition of shy, but she was just as curious, so to satisfy her burning curiosity she followed Naruto as fast as she could, activating her Byakugan to help with her search. She soon found Naruto in Training Ground 44, the Forest of Death. Now Hinata had been told to never under any circumstances go into that forest, but she had to know what Naruto was doing, so she entered. Forest of Death. Hinata had found Naruto in a clearing going through taijutsu katas as she watched Naruto, who was shirtless right now, which normally would have caused Hinata to faint, but in this forest she willed herself not to for fear of being eaten. But then she blinked and Naruto was gone from the clearing. She was about to activate her Byakugan when, "You know you're not very hard to notice when you're as jumpy as a squirrel on caffeine," said a voice from behind Hinata that sealed the deal. When Hinata saw that it was Naruto, she did her thing and fainted. Naruto sighed at this, knowing he'd have to explain some things to her, but shrugged it off as he knew Hinata was a nice girl and would keep his secrets. He also knew of her crush on him but couldn't return it for two reasons. One, he didn't know what it was like to love someone as he was never loved, and the second was fear of what the villagers would do to her if they heard the demon was dating the Hyuga heiress. Naruto set her against a tree and waited for her to wake up. When she did, he explained about why he acted like he did at the academy was all ninja rule 1 deception. She accepted this explanation but then asked him something that shocked him. Naruto-kun, can I train with you? She asked meekly. Naruto smiled, not one of his fake grins but a real smile, and said, only if you can answer one question. What are you trying to get stronger for? Hinata went into a thinking pose, and when she came out of it she answered, I want to be stronger so I seek and protect my sister, make my father proud of me, and prove myself to someone. Naruto smiled, knowing he was the one she meant in the last part, and at the rest of her declaration, well Hinata, welcome aboard, Naruto stated with a cheesy grin. Thank you Naruto-kun, replied Hinata. Time skip 1 month. Great job Hinata-chan, exclaimed Naruto as he saw Hinata had perfected water walking while he was still trying to stay afloat while running. Thank you, Hinata gushed at the praise over the last month. They had mostly trained in chakra control and taijutsu, but as a side effect of training with Naruto so much, Hinata had become a little more confident. Also, they added a few more training partners into their group. First were Shikamaru, Choji, and Shino. Naruto, whom after seeing how much more fun training was with a partner, decided to expand the group, so he went and told Shikamaru and Choji what they were doing and asked them to join. They both said yes. Choji because he liked the idea, Shikamaru because he said it would get him away from his troublesome mother. Naruto shrugged at the reasoning. What he didn't notice was Shino was right behind him as he explained the whole plan. Then he spoke. Uzumaki-san, said Shino, scaring the crap out of Naruto. I have heard your plans and wish to know if I may also partake in them. I see much logic in your reasoning on being as strong as possible before graduation, he reasoned. Naruto simply nodded as confirmation to the Aburame. Thank you. Then Shino asked, now where do we meet up for you to take us to your training grounds? Naruto told them to meet up at Ichiraku's ramen stand. They all nodded. They all met up and started training for the next week or so before they ended up with another new training partner or partners depending on who you asked. On the way to their training grounds in the forest, while walking down the street, they ran into Kiba and Akamaru, who asked what they were doing. They all of a sudden huddled together, confusing Kiba. All he heard from the conversion was, should we? Maybe, I don't know, troublesome, and sure okay. Before they turned to him and told him to follow them, he did, and when they reached what Naruto had deemed a safe distance from prying ears, they told him everything they had been doing, and if he wanted to join them he jumped at the chance to get stronger. Another month later. It had been 5 months since Naruto had begun his true training and 2 since he started it with company, but nobody was complaining. In fact, everyone was enjoying everything that had happened since they started. They were all faster, stronger, and more agile now. While they may be focused right now on chakra control and taijutsu, that doesn't mean they haven't gone through their clan libres or, in Naruto's case, Kurama's memories, looking for some just you. They had all gotten 1 or 2 new just you by now. The day was going great until on their way to training they were stopped by the last people they would have liked to see, Sasuke and the co-presidents of the Sasuke-kun fan club, Sakura and Ino. Where are you going, Dobi? Commanded Sasuke. None of your business, Teme, replied Naruto. Oi, don't talk to Sasuke-kun like that, Naruto baka, shrieked Sakura. Ya don't say that to him, baka, added Ino. Now as I was saying, where are you going, Dobi? Repeated Sasuke. I already told you, Teme, and you and your fangirls aren't going to change my mind. It is none of your business, replied Naruto. Over the last few months Naruto had stopped chasing Sakura around and began to refer to her as a fangirl. Don't make me force it out of you, Dobi, Sasuke sneered with a look of anger. Bring it, Teme, but if you want to fight, let's fight at the training grounds over there, Naruto spoke as he pointed over his shoulder. Sasuke grunted with a smirk, thinking it would be an easy win. When they got to the training grounds, Naruto and Sasuke stood across from each other while Naruto's friends and Sasuke's fangirl sat on the sidelines. Ha, I feel sorry for you guy having to watch Naruto baka get beat down by Sasuke-kun, exclaimed Sakura while Ino just sat there cheering Sasuke on. Shino spoke for Naruto's friends and simply said, we shall see. Back on the field, Naruto and Sasuke were setting the terms for their fight. So Sasuke, if I win you owe me 1 favor, and if you win, started Naruto. Then you must admit I am better than you, Dobi, finished Sasuke. Okay, rules, pure taijutsu with 1 just you allowed, agreed, stated Naruto. Sasuke nodded. A light, Hinata, can you start us off? Asked Naruto. Hi Naruto-kun, agreed Hinata. This match shall be between Naruto and Sasuke. Only if at any time during the match assistance is given by a spectator, the match is forfeit to the other. The match will be won when one of the combatants is either unconscious or unable to fight. Are both sides ready? She questioned, earning a HN from Sasuke and a hell yeah from Naruto. Good now, Hinata stated as she raised her hand. Hajime, she screamed, signaling the beginning of the fight by dropping her hand. Naruto and Sasuke shot at each other, engaged in a fierce taijutsu battle. Sasuke was the first to throw a punch straight at Naruto's head in an attempt to knock him out quick. Naruto countered by tilting his head to the left, grabbing Sasuke's hand and tossing him over his shoulder, wanting to smash him into the ground, but Sasuke had other ideas and landed on his feet, using the momentum from the throw to sweep Naruto's feet out from under him. Naruto, seeing what he was doing, backflipped to avoid the sweep and gained some distance from Sasuke. When he stopped, Sasuke was on him with a barrage of punches and kicks. Naruto was able to block or redirect most of them. Naruto decided now it was time to get serious, so he kicked Sasuke in the chest to send him away and shifted into the basic hummingbird stance, low to the ground, arms raised and bent forward as to gain speed before Sasuke could even begin to question the stance. Naruto shot forward and closed the gap between them in a second and unleashed his own barrage of hits, aiming for multiple points including elbows, knees, shoulders, and solar plexus. Sasuke was unable to dodge most of the hits and got the wind knocked out of him before he was capable of escaping. Sasuke saw that he needed to end this now, so he went through a set of hand seals and exclaimed while jumping in the air, "Kaden! Grand Fireball Justu!" He blew a large ball of flames towards Naruto. Naruto, realizing the power of this Just You, decided to use his own Just You to counter it. Everyone else watching saw Naruto not even bothering to move away from the deadly attack, and as it came closer, all of Naruto's friends screamed, "Naruto!" A loud boom was heard as the fireball connected with the ground, covering the area where Naruto was with smoke and flames. Sasuke smirked, thinking he had won, but was also worried if the Dobi was dead, even though he would never admit it. Everyone else, including Ino and Sakura, stared in shock as they thought Naruto had died, but their fears were quickly dispelled as a golden chain shot out of the fire and smoke and wrapped around Sasuke, dragging him to the ground. "Geez, you think you made the fireball big enough, Teme?" panted a voice everyone knew and was overjoyed to hear. They all turned toward what was left of the smoke and flames from Sasuke's Just You and saw a dome of the same golden chains, which were wrapped around Sasuke, were what protected Naruto from the blast. "Now Teme, I do believe you owe me a favor," said Naruto to the bound Sasuke with a smirk. "What do you want, Dobi?" stated Sasuke, because even though he hated it, he was a man of his word. "Simple. You and your fangirls over there are going to start training with me and my friends and not tell a soul about it, understand?" explained Naruto as he untied and reabsorbed the chains. Sasuke, interested in the chains Naruto was absorbing, simply nodded in acceptance. "Alright, let's get going," stated Naruto as he walked away. The others followed. End flashback. Very well, so that's how you all got together for training. Now how did you all get your new abilities and appearances? Evaluated the Hokage. Also, I will talk to you about those chains when you're finished, Naruto. "Okay, Gigi, and as for our powers, that actually happened about 6 months ago," started Naruto. Last flashback. It has been a little over a year since Sasuke, Sakura, and Ino had joined their group. Over the last year, the whole group had all grown much stronger. If one were to set them to rank, they would all be mid to high Chunin level. When they first got here, Sasuke was his usual brooding self with a life bent on revenge, while Sakura and Ino were royal fangirls who couldn't go 5 minutes without complaining. However, 12 months can change someone, because after Sasuke went on one of his rants about killing his brother and not needing help, about 2 months in the group minus Sakura and Ino showed him just how powerful teamwork makes someone by beating the crap out of him. Granted, 6-on-1 isn't fair, but he needed the lesson pounded into his skull, literally. Sakura and Ino were easier, they just needed a wake-up call. Said wake-up call was named Hinata when she paralyzed them with her Jukin and put them in a Genjutsu to show them what happened to fangirls who became ninja. Needless to say, they shaped up pretty quickly. After these incidents, Sasuke opened up and was more friendly. Sakura and Ino were serious about their careers, and the whole group had grown so close they considered themselves family minus the suffixes. The last year, everyone had gone to their clan libraries to gain some more Just You. Naruto still used Kurama as his Just You library and was about to start on his father's Just You, the Rasengan. He knew the harsh and no Just You would take a lot more time and an extreme amount of Fuinjutsu knowledge to achieve, which Kurama was helping him with while he was sleeping. Sasuke opened up his clan library to Sakura since she didn't have one and gave her free reign to all non-clan exclusive Just You. Now today was the day Naruto had made a huge decision. He had chosen to tell his friends about his Ni-san, so with Kurama's encouragement he worked up the nerve to approach them. "Oi Mina," Naruto yelled, "no turning back now," he added as an afterthought. "What's up, Dobi?" asked Sasuke as everyone gathered around Naruto. "Well, I figured it was time for me to tell you all something," Naruto told them. "What, Naruto-kun?" spoke Hinata, a cute confused look on her face. She had gained so much confidence that she was able to hold a decent conversation with him, though she did have some relapses. "To tell you, I have to show you something," he said as he pulled out a kunai and a scroll. He then proceeded to seal the scroll. Now Sakura, what did I just do? You sealed a kunai, she deadpanned. Good, now did the scroll become the kunai because it was sealed? He asked. Of course not, why would you ask that? Sakura stated, slightly worried about where this was going. Just keep what you said in mind, okay? Seeing their nods, he continued, now almost 12 years ago what happened? He asked. The Kyuubi attacked and the Yodem killed it, stated Kiba, not understanding where this was going. Good, now that story is total shit, Naruto stated bluntly, causing wide eyes all around. Then what happened? Asked Ino. The Yodem chose a child barely an hour old and sealed the Kyuubi in him, Naruto explained sorrowfully. Everyone gasped at this information. Nay Hinata, when's my birthday? Naruto asked. October 10th, she answered quickly. Now when did the Kyuubi attack? He asked with his head down and hair shadowing his eyes. October 10th, gasped. She couldn't finish the answer as she realized what he meant, and by the looks the others had, they had figured it out too. The Kyuubi is sealed in you, isn't it? Shikamaru not so much asked as stated a fact. Yes, I understand if you believe I'm the fox and don't want to be my friend anymore, Naruto told them in dejected voice, still looking down. What he didn't expect was the pair of arms going around him. He looked up to see it was Hinata, crying her eyes out. Naruto-kun, you're not the Kyuubi, you're not, she repeated over and over. Hinata-chan, thank you, Naruto told her in a truly thankful voice. He then looked towards the others. The guys were simply looking at him. Sakura and Ino were staring at him, trying to hold in their tears. Well, do you all agree with her? Everyone did the easiest reply and just nodded. Thank you all, he spoke finally. After a while they had all sat down and calmed down. Now they were all just hanging out, talking and having fun, until Kurama decided to make himself known. Hey Tuto. What's up Kurama ni? Thought Naruto. I want you to bring yourself and all your friends in here, I have a plan, Kurama told him mysteriously. Okay, I guess, Naruto told him. Oi Naruto, wake up, hello, said Sakura, waving her hand in front of Naruto's face since he spaced out a minute ago. Huh? What do you want, Sakura? Asked a confused Naruto. Sakura just huffed and Shikamaru looked at Naruto and said, You were talking to the Kyuubi, weren't you? This time it was a question? Nani? Exclaimed everyone else as they stared at him wide-eyed. Yup, in fact he wants to meet all of you, Naruto stated as if it were the simplest thing in the world. Another round of Nani was heard. Seriously, if their eyes got any bigger they would be popping out of their heads. Are you sure it's safe to meet it? Asked Choji in fear at the thought of meeting the most powerful creature on the planet. Very sure, don't worry, he won't hurt you unless you call him an it again, Naruto told him. Okay, so all you have to do is put your hand somewhere on me and Kyuubi will do the rest, Naruto instructed. They all nodded and did so. Okay, here we go, Naruto said, then they blacked out. Mindscape. When they woke up they were all surprised to see they were in an amazing looking bachelor pad. Even the girls admitted it. The only thing was it looked like it was made for a giant. They were so interested by the room they didn't notice anything else until they heard a whistle behind them. When they turned around they were stunned to Naruto on top of the Kyuubi's head, whom was laying on an enormous couch. Kurama decided to be friendly and smiled, which only served to freak the 8 below him out of their wits. He soon noticed this, quickly stopped smiling and sheepishly rubbed the back of his head, being careful not to harm Naruto. Kurama, not liking the silence in the air, chose to speak. Sorry kids, I forgot how terrifying I am when I smile. The 8 ground-level ninja in training were stupefied at the fact the strongest being in existence just apologized to them. Oi, Kurama ni, what did you want us here for anyway? Asked the ever-impatient Naruto, surprising his friends that he considered the Kyuubi his brother and by the Kyuubi's true name, also gaining their attention at what he wished of them. Oh yeah, that's right. Well, remember when I told you I would give you a power when you were ready? Kurama explained to Naruto. Yes, you said it would depend on my personality and a whole lot of other things, Naruto replied. Yes, well it's time, and I want to do the same for your friends here, Kurama stated frankly to them. What? They all screamed at what they had heard, even Naruto at what Kurama wanted to do. Kurama, wanting to get this over with, chose to end this quickly with the shorted explanation he could. Wait. No questions until after I explain, okay? Seeing their nods he continued, now I promised Naruto Tuto I would give him a power. To do this I would have to use 1 tael worth of chakra to do so. Now I didn't mean I would give all of you your own special power, but that doesn't mean you get nothing. I plan on enhancing your bloodlines to the point they would be as strong if not stronger than the original ancestors of your clans. Now there are a number of things can be side effects of the enhancements from certain personality traits to your body shifting to fit your new abilities. Now I will give you some time to think it over. I won't force it on you, I am only giving you the option. Naruto, once I do this I won't be able to again for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, okay? Kurama explained quickly and Naruto nodded. Also, even though I can't use that ability I will gain my chakra back fairly quickly, so I will be at full strength in about a year. Kurama finished. Naruto turned towards his friends and saw that they were thinking hard about this. After a few moments to collect their thoughts, they all agreed to the deal given to them. Very well, now all of you come closer. Kurama instructed. As the 9 got in position, Kurama positioned his tails over each of them and warned. This will hurt a lot. That was all the warning they had before their worlds went dark with pain. End flashback. And that was 6 months ago. Since then we have been training in our powers and other skills, finished Naruto. The Hokage and Jonin in the room couldn't believe what they were just told, even though the proof was right in front of them. The Hokage finally said, I'm getting too old for this shit, and sighed. Naruto-kun, one thing you forgot to mention was what your powers were, and while we have some theories based on your appearances, you gave us no facts to use to validate or discredit them. Also, if you knew it was Mizuki all along, why did you let him get away for so long? Well, Gigi, it wouldn't be a surprise then. If you want to know, we'll show you instead of tell you. As for Mizuki, waited so long so I could get a chance to beat the crap out of him without the council getting on my ass. Speaking of which, I would like to try and interrogate him if possible, compromised Naruto. The Hokage raised an eyebrow and thought for a minute. Very well, you may take part in the interrogation because you deserve some justice after what he did to you. As for showing us your abilities, I agree, as per the fact that all of your powers are too valuable to not be in action based on what you have told me, so you are all definitely genin, no second test. However, I am making some changes to teams. Now all of your teams will be merged into one team of 12 counting your Jonin sensei, and teams of 4 will be divided based on missions later on. For now you will show us what you can do by fighting U9 versus these 3 at 7 AM at training ground 7 in the morning, he said, motioning toward the rookie 9 and the Jonin respectively. Okay Gigi, we will see you tomorrow then, Naruto said as Kurama vanished back to the seal and the rest of the rookies left, this time in a normal Shushin. The Hokage simply stared into space, thinking he had forgotten something. Then he realized he hadn't talked to Naruto about his bloodline chains, or his parents, or his heritage. This was giving him too much of a headache. As he was about to dismiss the Jonin, he saw a note on his desk. He picked it up and it said, Gigi, don't worry, I know everything and why it happened. I don't blame you or anyone else. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. P.S. Look out your window. The last bit unnerved the Hokage a little, but he went to the window with the Jonin and opened the curtains. They all screamed at what they saw. It was a huge poster of Kurama drawn like he was about to attack them. They heard 9 laughing voices, but they knew who was behind this. Naruto, oh. They all screamed. Oh yes, tomorrow would be an interesting day. Naruto's apartment. It's time, Otuto, so what are you going to do? Asked Kurama as he saw Naruto had finished getting ready. Easy, stated Naruto, give them hell, closing the door behind him. Training ground 7. Looks like we're the first ones here, said Naruto as he looked around the training grounds and settled down on one of the 3 posts near the forest and bridge. Not quite, Naruto-kun, replied the Hokage as he jumped out from the tree line beside Naruto. Hey Gigi, exclaimed Naruto, what's up? Not a lot, Naruto, however I would tell you something, answered the Hokage. Okay, what is it? Naruto asked, interested in what the old man had to say. It's that you have a bloodline, replied the Hokage, getting right to the point. He then saw Naruto's eyes bulge and decided to continue. Your bloodline is that you can give your chakra form like your mother's chains. Your mother never got around to making anything else but chains, so everyone thought it was just a skill she could do and not a bloodline. To be exact, due to your bloodline your chakra is denser and much more potent. Naruto's eyes, extremely close to popping out of his head, asked, how much more potent? While thinking, I've got another bloodline. Hot damn. About 10 times more potent than me, along with about 5 times as much chakra, mused the Hokage, enjoying Naruto's expression for a few more minutes before he noticed something. Naruto, where are your chakrams I saw yesterday? The Hokage asked, snapping Naruto out of his funk. Oh, they're sealed on my back, Naruto stated with ease. Very well, it would seem we have company Naruto-kun. The aged Hokage pointed out as he motioned to the large group which included the remaining rookie 9, senseis and their families. Good morning Hokage-sama, started all the clan heads simultaneously while bowing to the man. The Hokage simply waved at them all. As all the pleasantries appeared finished, Hiroshi posed a question. Hokage-sama, may I inquire as to why we clan head and our families have been asked to attend our children's secondary test and as to why they are all on the same team? The Hokage replied with, I dissolved their teams and made them one group due to recent information that has come to me, and as for why you are here, I believed you would want to see what I mean as well as the fact that I could use a good laugh. He then told Naruto, Naruto-kun, why don't you and your friends get ready? The clan heads were slightly disturbed by that last statement but remained silent as their children lined up next to each other. Now watch and do try not to faint, Naruto told them with a voice full of amusement. They then repeated what they did in the classroom the previous day. When the light settled down, the clan heads and their families looked at the transformed 9. Their reactions would forever remain engraved in the Hokage's mind and Naruto's blackmail book. Chozo was wide-eyed. Shikaku was surprised but hid it well by just muttering about troublesome sons. Inochi was terrified by his little princess's appearance and looked like he would have a heart attack soon. Shibi was the ever-stoic Aburame, however his eyebrows were raised. The equivalent to shock for Aburame clan. Sume and Hana were staring at their son or brother, both could sense the alpha vibe being put off by him. Sume was proud of her son's new self and Hana was wondering what happened to her twerp of a little brother. Hiroshi and Hanabi had different reactions. Hanabi was cheering at how cool and beautiful her sister was while Hiroshi was twitching until he finally pulled a Hinata and fainted while foaming at the mouth. Sakura's mother was not present for the simple reason that she didn't want to see the Uzumaki brat, as she unfairly dubbed him. The 9 just looked on as their families tried to pull themselves together, though the smiles on the rookies' faces was all that was needed to show they were very amused by the reactions. Okay, we have put this off long enough, the Hokage said. It is time now. These 9 will fight these 3. Both sides will give everything they have. Is that understood? Questioned the Hokage after he had pointed out the fighters. The clan heads' eyes widened at this and Inochi voiced their concern. Hokage-sama, you can't mean to let the Jonin go all out against these genin. The Hokage merely looked at them and said, just watch and see. He then turned toward the fighters who were standing across from each other and asked, are all fighters ready? Getting 12 nods, he rose his hand and then dropped it, screaming, Hajime. Well, why don't I start this off? Exclaimed Naruto as he jumped on a tree branch right behind the rookies. Okay, team plan DC, how you achieve is up to you. Grouping his teams before dissolve, understood? Getting 8 highs from them, he began to charge his chakra. Hey Gigi. I have to thank you for that tidbit about having more than chains, and I think I will use it right now. He told the aged Hokage while turning toward the Jonin with a sadistic gleam in his eyes and smile on his face. I'm firing my laser. I don't own this meme, Naruto exclaimed as he opened his mouth, expelling an enormous laser of pure black and red streaked chakra toward the Jonin, who dodged at the last second but in 3 different directions. The 3 Jonin were then forced into different locations by the rookies: Kakashi to the lake, Asuma to the forest, and Kurenai to the field. Kurenai and former Team 8, do not own alien. Kurenai looked over the 3 before her, trying to evaluate her opponents. From what she could see, Shino appeared to be at close to mid-range, however being an Aburame he had his insects for long range. Kiba and Akamaru were close range. And disturbing, Kurenai thought, because of his loincloth. A fucking loincloth, she mentally complained as she turned her attention to Hinata, who looked like a close to mid-range fighter with that scythe of hers. With her observation done, she began formulating a plan. Well, what do you guys say we begin Genjutsu? Flower Hill, Kurenai whispered as the field around them gained thousands of flowers of various colors and species. They didn't even bat an eyelash at the change of scenery, and that annoyed Kurenai a lot. Now the stage is set, and sorry to say you've already lost, Kurenai told them with a slightly disappointed voice, expecting more. Well, as they say, ask and ye shall receive, and her answer came in the form of Kiba and Akamaru coming towards her as 2 large drills screaming Suga. She dodged these 2 by back-flipping away. When she stopped, she saw that they were standing and Hinata and Shino walk out of the dust cloud Kiba and Akamaru had made. Kurenai-sensei, did you really think it would be that easy? Questioned Hinata with a slight scowl at being underestimated so badly. Not really, but I could hope, Kurenai said nonchalantly. By the way, how are you not paralyzed? When I put up that genjutsu I released enough poison to stop a rhino for a few minutes and on people that would easily last an hour or two? Elementary, my dear. Kiba started imitating a detective. Shino's immune to most poisons and Hinata stood behind me and Akamaru as we created a stationary Suga to blow the poison away. Interesting, Kurenai mumbled, then shrugged her shoulders as she decided to get back to the fight. Enough of this, let's keep going, she said, getting in her stance, and charged Kiba, going through a set of hand seals, exclaiming Crimson Leaf Dream. As Kiba was about to defend himself, Kurenai faded into mist only to reappear behind him in pink mist, kunai drawn ready to stab only to be blocked by a bladed tail from Shino. His tail was able to push her away from Kiba and give him time to turn and charge her using his clawed hand, feet, and bladed tail to attack, while the head-like shield defended from several kunai strikes. Shino was attacking Kurenai relentlessly and she knew it. His claws and tail were hard enough to dodge. Then he shocked her when the mouth on his shield opened and a tiny mouth with razor-sharp teeth shot out at her head. She ducked just in time to avoid it. She kicked Shino in the chest in order to gain some distance, only to almost be decapitated by Hinata's scythe. Kurenai, shocked that her little sister figure would actively try to kill her, was caught off guard by Kiba, who burst out from underground and gave her an uppercut to the jaw, busting her lip. She wiped her lip and glared at the three in front of her. Okay, now I'm serious, the kid gloves come off now. Kurenai growled at them murderously and decided to take a note from her friend Enko's book and went through a set of hand seals and screamed. Many hidden shadow snakes, literally hundreds of snakes, shot from her sleeve and were launched at the three genin, forcing them to get out of the way. Oh no, you're not getting away this time, string bean binding, she exclaimed, making vines explode out of the ground, tying up the three far above the ground. Now are you three ready to give up? She asked, still pissed off about Hinata trying to lop her head off and Kiba busting her lip. No, and here's why, Hinata stated as she activated her Byakugan, dispelling the genjutsu on her. Akamaru nipped Kiba and the minor pain snapped him out of it. Shino simply stayed where he was and the genjutsu faded from around him. Kurenai was unable to decipher how he dispelled the genjutsu. Now I believe you said the kid gloves are off, right, Kurenai-nisan? Hinata asked with a happy smile that shifted into disturbing glee. Kurenai, did you know that this entire time we have been holding back? She asked, shocking Kurenai. Now why don't we truly begin? Guys, formation glimpse of hell, Hinata stated as she, Kiba, and Shino began going through head seals. Hinata finished first and exclaimed, Shitten. Hell's graveyard. As soon as she said this, the grass in the field around them died and caught fire in patches all around them. Gravestones rose from the earth and random skeletons littered the ground. Kiba was next. When he finished his set, he placed his hand on Akamaru and one of the dead snakes from Kurenai's earlier, just you, and said, Ninpo. Hounds of hell. Kiba's went on all fours and began to grow black fur and a tail. His body shifted to that of a canine's, becoming more and more wolfish until he was a giant black wolf, his claws long since destroyed in the transformation. Akamaru had grown into an equally large black wolf. They both snarled at Kurenai, showing their impressive 6-foot height even on 4 legs. Kurenai was horrified by the transformation as it appeared horribly painful, but was snapped out of her surprise by Shino. Shino finished his set and exclaimed, summoning Justu. Xenomorph Brigade. He slammed his hand on the ground and 10 puffs of smoke emerged. When the smoke cleared, 10 creatures were shown. They looked like Shino's armor given a more primal form, xenomorphs. Good, now one last touch, Hinata said, going through another set of hand seals. Shitten. Revival of the dead, Hinata stated emotionlessly. Kurenai watched, scared out of her wits, as the skeletons around her began to get up, some armed, others not. It was as if she had to phrase the scene before her, a glimpse of hell. Kurenai was shocked, terrified, and disturbed all at once. She was really hoping that they didn't sick them on her, but her prayers went unanswered when Hinata pointed at her and said, Attack! The group of hellish beasts rushed her, barely giving her time to get away with her genjutsu. Flower petal escaped. Kurenai dissolved into petals to get away and started to run to get help from someone. Hopefully they could help. Hopefully, she thought as she ran into the forest with them hot on her tail. A.N. Read A.N. at the bottom of the chapter for reason as to why this fight is so short. Asuma and former Team 10. Asuma was jumping through the trees thinking of ways to get this over with by a quick examination of the team. Ino was support. Choji was the muscle of the group. And Shikamaru was a strategist. It was an interesting group with a lot of potential, and they were very persistent. If the fact that he had to dodge the kunai with explosive notes attached to them every 5 seconds, and this had been going on for about 10 minutes, and it was only Ino throwing them. He chose to end this now since they were very far away from everyone else. Coming to a stop on a tree branch and turning towards them as they too stopped on their own branches. Asuma took a drag of his cigarette and looked at them with a bored expression while they just stood there waiting for him to make the first move. Asuma exhaled and said, "You know, so long as you stand there nothing's going to happen." Ino replied with, "Oh, we know, we just thought it would be polite to let you finish your cigarette before we truly begin." "Is that right?" Asuma said with a slight smile. "Well, at least you all have some manners," he stated before he disappeared, then reappeared behind Choji and kicked him into Shikamaru, sending them through the trees and away. He then engaged Ino in a taijutsu battle, his trench knives versus her clawed hand. Ino showed she was experienced in this field as she was dodging and parrying his attacks with her claws. "You're very good with those claws of yours," Asuma complimented. "Thanks, but I think it's time we step it up a notch, don't you?" she asked with a smile, greatly enjoying their bout. Asuma was about to respond to her question but found that he couldn't move. "What happened?" "It's simple, I trapped you with my shadow possession," Shikamaru stated as he rose from the shadows behind Asuma. "Crap, I let my guard down," thought Asuma while trying to break free of Shikamaru's just you, but found he couldn't. He continued to struggle until he heard a giggle from Ino. "I think it's time, let's begin," Ino said, going through some hand seals. When she was done she screamed, "Temple of Nirvana." As she said this, feathers began to fall. "Shit, I have no choose," Asuma thought as he charged chakra to the monkey tattoo on his shoulder. Summoning Justu. He shouted as he fell asleep from Ino's Just You. Before she saw what he summoned, she activated another of her Just You. This one was called Akumaton. Dream Invader. As she said this, her body faded into smoke and entered Asuma's body through his ears, mouth, and nose. When the smoke cleared, standing there was the monkey boss, Monkey King Enma, but there was someone else there as well. The tagalong was Gamabunta's size, had black fur, covered in huge muscles, and armor that looked like Choji's with the addition of a samurai's helmet, looked to be made of gold, and had an enormous double-bladed battle axe. This was the gorilla boss King Kong. "Do not own." "Hey Asuma, I told you to not summon me for a while because I had family over," Enma said with an eye twitch. Then he noticed Asuma was asleep, the damage to the area from explosive notes, and Shikamaru next to Choji. So he summed up his thoughts in one sentence, which was, "What the hell is going on here?" He screamed at the top of his lungs, drawing their attention. "Troublesome," mumbled Shikamaru. "Oi, Enma-sama," he called, getting the boss summon's attention. "Boy, tell me what's going on," the pissed-off boss summon demanded. "Very well, long story short, we're sparring with our Jonin-sensei to rank our abilities, and as we knocked him out he summoned you and apparently your family," replied Shikamaru. Enma wanted to laugh in his face that there was no way a genin could knock out a jonin, but when he re-evaluated the situation and found that he couldn't refute the claims as Asuma was unconscious, "Very well, since I was summoned I will aid Asuma and test you, however allow me to see my cousin off," ended Enma. "That won't be necessary, Enma-sama," said Choji, stopping Enma in his tracks. "And why is that?" Enma asked the young ninja out of curiosity. "Sir, I am from the Akamichi clan, who are known for being able to change our body's proportions, and if Kong-sama would allow I would like the honor of fighting him at his level," concluded Choji with as much respect as he could muster. Kong decided to step in at this point. "You interest me, boy, as such I will honor your wish and grant you this fight." He shifted his gaze towards Enma. "What do you say we begin?" he asked with a smile on his face. "This will be fun," stated Enma right before he rushed Shikamaru, making him retreat so as to give Kong and Choji some room. "Kong versus Choji, don't own fate, 0. Might as well get ready," mumbled Choji as he went through some seals and said, "Expansion Justu. Full body." Choji grew to match Kong in height. When he reached the necessary size he slipped into his stance for his taijutsu style, Atlas Grasp. This style focused mainly on holding and then beating the living shit out of the opponent. However, there is more than meets the eye about this style. Kong stood there, arms crossed, waiting for Choji to make the first move and said, "Bring it, boy." This was the signal. Choji started to run towards Kong, but as he threw the first punch Kong caught it and using Choji's momentum threw him over his shoulder. Choji had other plans and flipped to land on his feet. He then pushed off, launching himself at Kong in order to continue. He caught the gorilla boss off guard with his quick response. Choji grabbed onto Kong's shoulders as Kong turned around. "Take this," Choji exclaimed, ramming his head into Kong's, giving the ape a massive headache. Kong didn't even notice Choji jump away to get some distance as he was holding his head in agony. Choji used the time provided from Kong's pain to ready adjust projection. "Chains of heaven," he said as chains fell from ripples in the sky and bound Kong in the most efficient ways. Kong tried to break the chains but found he couldn't as Choji walked up to him and put a kunai to his throat. "I win," he simply said with a smile. Kong smirked. "Yes you do." After Kong had told him this, Choji dispelled the chains and returned to his normal size. "I am curious though, how did you make those chains?" Choji smiled. "With a little help from my friend Naruto," was all he said. Kong chuckled. "Is that so?" he replied, knowing that he wasn't getting anything else. "Anyway, you have impressed me, kid, as such I'll give you something," he told Choji, summoning a large scroll. "This is the summoning scroll for the gorillas. Use it well, as you have proven to be of strong body and heart." "Thank you, Kong-sama, I will not let you down," vowed Choji. "I know you won't later, Gaki," Kong said as he returned his home. Choji signed the scroll, sealed it away, and took off towards Ino and Asuma. Shikamaru vs Enma. Don't own the darkness, Slender Man, or FMA. Shikamaru was analyzing the situation he was in and saw it was not looking good for him. "Let's go over the facts," he mentally proposed. 1. The area is a dense forest. 2. Enma the Monkey King is a master of acrobatics and close combat. 3. While this area is useful with the amount of shadows it produces, it also grants Enma more room to roam. Conclusion: I need to get rid of this area now. As he was thinking this, he was engaged in a brutal taijutsu match with Enma, which he had to admit the Monkey King had a large advantage in. "Boy, I can tell that taijutsu isn't your specialty, however you are very good to have lasted this long against me," Enma praised seriously, but he never let down his guard. "Thanks for the praise, but I think it's time to even the playing field," Shikamaru suggested, told. "Oh? And how do you plan to do that?" Enma asked, raising an eyebrow. "Easy like this," Shikamaru spoke while going through hand seals. "Caged in black night." When he finished, the clouds rolled in, blanketing the sky, and the shadows on the ground expanded, meeting each other. When all was said and done, it looked like it was midnight. Enma, slightly shocked Shikamaru could do this, didn't even see as Shika vanished into the shadows. Shikamaru's voice broke Enma out of his shock. "Now let's see if you can find me, or if I will find you, ha. Shikamaru exclaimed with bloody glee. Enma, thoroughly creeped out, set out to find the crazy genin. After 10 minutes of traveling, Enma saw something posted on a tree. It was a piece of paper with a badly drawn tree, a tall, thin stick figure, and the word follows written down the right side of the page. Enma heard a creepy laugh to his right. He turned but didn't see anyone. However, he found another page. This one had "Can't Run" covering the entire page. Enma decided it was time to get the hell out of there. As he was turning to run, he saw something he wished he didn't. What he saw were the shadow, only they weren't. These shadows had eyes and teeth. And on top of that, they were looking at him. "Ha, I see you found my pets," came Shikamaru's voice from right over Enma's shoulder. Enma turned around, scared out of his wits for the first time in a long time, and saw Shika. Only his cloak was gone, and he had 6 serpent-like tentacles coming out of his back. Each was back with glowing red eyes, blood-red teeth and gums, and glowing red veins. Enma asked, terrified, "What are you?" Shikamaru gained a grin that matched his shadows. "I am darkness," and with that sent his tentacle and shadows at Enma, dispelling him. That was really fun," he said, then sighed. "Troublesome MPD." He then went back towards where Asuma and Ino were. Asuma vs Ino. Don't own Nightmare on Elm Street. Asuma's mindscape. When Asuma opened his eyes, he found himself in what looked like a sewer, only it was full of pipes, large ones, small ones, and everything in between. The lighting was odd, it was a dark red. The last thing he remembered, he was knocked out by his genin opponents. Man, Kakashi was never going to let him live this down. He got up and started to walk around looking for an exit. He had his trench knives out in case of an attack. As he continued to walk, he eventually found something. It was a very large door, about 12 feet high and 6 feet wide. He wondered what was on the other side and decided whatever it was had to be better than this sewer. He attempted to open it only to find it locked. He sighed. Well fuck, looks like I have to break it down. That won't be necessary, he heard from behind him right before he was kicked into and through the door. There, I did it for you, said the voice. Asuma groaned as he got up and turned to see Ino in the doorway, the red light pouring out into the room that he could now see was a cathedral with its choir balcony, podium, and stained glass windows. The shadows covered her face and half her torso. Suddenly Asuma heard singing. He looked up towards the balcony to see the Rookie 9 as young children all singing together, wearing baggy white robes and wreaths on their heads. 1, 2, she's coming for you. 3, 4, lock your door. They sang together slowly. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. 7, 8, stay up late. They started to slow down their pace, which Asuma took as a bad sign. 9, 10, never gonna sleep again. They sang condescendingly. Asuma shifted his attention to Ino after they had finished, only to find she was right in front of him, not even 2 feet away, with her claw about to slash him to bits. He jumped back but couldn't dodge altogether, so he ended up with 4 large slashes across his chest. He winced in pain, but when he opened his eyes everything was different. He wasn't in a cathedral anymore, he was in his home in bed, and Ino wasn't there. He sighed in relief. It was all a dream. He then heard knocking at his front door, so he got dressed and went to answer it. When he opened it, Kurenai was there and said, "Come on Asuma-kun, or you'll be late for our date." He smiled at her and said, "Yeah, don't worry, I will be there." "You better be, and just so you know I love you," she replied with a smile. "Yeah, me too," Asuma finished. He then heard a voice he wished he didn't. "Ah, what a happy moment," Ino said, appearing behind Kurenai, claw raised. "Too bad I have to end it," she said finally before bringing her clawed hand down. In a flash bisecting Kurenai, she grinned and then began to laugh like some kind of deranged psychopath. Asuma starred in absolute horror as his girlfriend was cut in two and slumped to his knees in shock. After watching Asuma wallow in self-pity for a few minutes, she finally had enough laughing and spoke to him saying, "Come on Asuma-sensei, is that all you got?" she questioned, still standing behind Kurenai's corpse. Asuma saw red as pure rage welled up in him. He looked at Ino and the look of unadulterated fury told her she had crossed a line. Asuma shot at her trench knives ready to kill and started slashing wildly. Ino saw that his anger was making him sloppy. Heck, he forgot to charge his knives with wind chakra. However, regardless of that, he was still very dangerous, so she shushined behind him and kicked him again. This time he went through the wall and ended up back in the sewer. But he backflipped, landing on his feet going through hand seals. Ino recognized the "just you" he was about to use and charged him to stop him, but he finished first and she knew she couldn't get out of the way. Asuma exclaimed, "Kaden!" Ash pile burning. He exhaled a large cloud of ash covering Ino. Her eyes widened as he clicked his teeth, setting of an explosion. When the explosion and smoke had ended, he saw Ino sprawled out on the ground, missing the clawless arm. Her hair, hat, and half of her face was terribly burned. Asuma looked on with satisfaction until the magnitude of what he had done hit him. Don't get him wrong, he had killed before as it was part of his job, but he had just killed a young kunoichi. One who just graduated the day before. Then another thought hit his mind: how would he tell Inochi about this? Ouch! This snapped Asuma out of his terror. "You know Asuma-sensei, getting blown to pieces hurts, right?" Asuma turned to see the burned and one-armed Ino standing up, gazing at him with satisfaction. "I think I've proven my skills, wouldn't you?" she said as she grew a new arm and all the burns on her body started to fade except the ones on her face. I think I'll keep this burn at least until Daddy has a chance to skin you alive," she said, further installing fear into Asuma as he fell on his butt at the horror show that was Ino. "I think it's time to end this," she decided. 1, 2, I'm coming for you. 3, 4, lock your door, she started to sing slowly as she approached the frozen Asuma. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. 7, 8, stay up late. She was only a few feet from Asuma and started to lift her claw as the shadow covered her features except her white teeth and gleaming eyes. 9, 10, never gonna sleep again. She finished, then snapped her claws. "Time's up, the nightmare begins, my friend," she spoke in a demonic tone and jumped at Asuma. His screams radiated the area. Real world. Asuma shot up and looked around. When his eyes met the 3 rookies, he screamed and ran as fast as his legs would take him in the other direction, praying that they wouldn't catch him or that he could find help. Choji and Shikamaru blinked at his reaction and turned to Ino, who just materialized, and asked together, "What did you do to him?" Not even bothering us to ask how she got her face burned. Ino giggled and told them, Tell you later, now let's chase him. It's funny to watch a grown man cry. Both were slightly put off by this but shrugged and said sure, as they did not want what he got. Asuma, someone, anyone save me. He screamed and kept running. As he was running he heard a scream that wasn't his. Ah! Screamed Kurenai as she passed him and kept running. She exclaimed, no time to explain, run faster. At that he turned his head and saw Team 8 and their undead army of skeletons, reptile bugs, and hellhounds had grouped up with Team 10. His eyes widened to impossible portions and he hit the turbo, catching up to Kurenai in 5-second flat. We need to get some help. Asuma yelled to her. Nah shit Sherlock, she yelled back, but for now shut up and get the lead out. And with that they ran at speeds that would make Guide jealous, looking for salvation from the hell spawn behind them. Kakashi vs former Team 7. Before this even begins, I don't own Toriko, Ghost Rider, or Cerberus. Kakashi eyes smiled at the genin before him. So it seem you three know water walking, he said in a bored if not slightly impressed voice. Yeah, we learned it a little under 2 years ago, replied Naruto smirking. Good, now how do we go about this questioned Kakashi, as while he had confidence in himself didn't think underestimating them was a good idea. Good question, Naruto thought for a few seconds, then an idea hit him. How about you fight us one-on-one for 10 minutes each, and after each of his fights if Sakura is willing she can heal whoever needs it so the next one of us can go after? He reasoned. Sakura and Sasuke nodded. Kakashi was conflicted. Is she really that good at medical ninjutsu? He asked with obvious concern. Sakura replied, yes I am. I've been studying and practicing since I started to train with Naruto, and after team placement yesterday I went to the hospital and asked them to test me on how good I am. They ended up wide-eyed and stammering, saying that in a few years I could be as good if not better than Tsunade-sama. As for now, they said I can heal most poisons, internal and external injuries, as well as a few mental problems to a great percentage. She explained with pride. Kakashi was very impressed by this and also shocked at this proclamation and gave his consent to the plan, then told them, well, since Sakura is the one healing it only makes sense for her to go first, so afterwards she has time to rest, recharge and redo. Is this okay? Perfect Kakashi-sensei, Sakura said with joy at going first. Naruto was depressed he didn't get to go first but let it go as he knew this was the best plan, so he went to talk to Sasuke and Kurama, who had just woken up from his nap. Kakashi and Sakura walk out to the middle of the lake. When they got there, Kakashi asked with an eye smile, are you ready? She replied, hi, and got into her stance, which had her torso bent forward slightly, arms bending at her side, fist out, and her legs in a running position ready to start at any time. Good, he said as he readied himself. Kakashi vs Sakura. As some sort of unspoken signal, a leaf was starting to fall towards the water. As it got closer and closer, the atmosphere got tenser. When it hit the water, they were off. Sakura was first to act, exclaiming, Odaton! Sound bullets, before opening her mouth and blasting multiple bullets at Kakashi, who dodged them all with a small amount of effort as they were very accurate. Kakashi, having just evaded the barrage of sound, rushed at Sakura, thinking her techniques were only meant distance reached her, and began to deliver a few bone-cracking hits as he wasn't trying to mortally wound her. A fist to the chest, knee hit her stomach, dual chopped her shoulders, and finished with a knockout uppercut, sending her flying towards the shore. Kakashi was confused. He knew these kids were stronger than this, so what was up? He got his answer when Sakura started to stand up, not even hurt. Not only that, but it looked like air around her was distorted by something, though he couldn't figure it out. Sakura saw his expression well, what she thought his expression was, and answered his unspoken question, I can tell you're confused, so let me help you, she said with a smile. This is my Odaton. Sound armor. I quite literally make a bubble of sound to dull the blows, form brute force attacks. It also protects me from heat and dehydration because the bubble is moist, so it cools and moisturizes, she told him, sticking her tongue out at the end. Kakashi was very impressed by this. Just you, as it sounded like it could protect her from most low-level fire. Just you and a great deal of physical damage, he simply replied. Impressive, now let's continue. Going through hand seals, Sweden. Water clone. Just you, he said, creating 15 clones, then went through another set and said, Sweden. Hidden mist. Just to, creating a mist to block her vision. Sakura wasn't even fazed by this. She whispered, Odaton. Echo map. She breathed in deeply and then released a high-pitched screech that covered the entire area before rebounding back to her. She then turned to her left and notified Kakashi, I know where you are. She spoke confidently. Really? Kakashi asked, his voice coming from all around her. He then proposed. Even if you could see Kakashi, what makes you think it's the real me? Quite simple, she prompted. There are two ways I can tell where you are. The first is in the Just You I used. It allows me to make a map of the surrounding area for up to a mile. It also shows me all obstacles in my path. As for how I can tell it's you, your clones are made of water, so they still behave like water and vibrate when introduced to sound. You on the other hand are flesh and bone. As for the other reason, I know, she said before whispering. Odaton. Speed of sound. She disappeared before appearing behind the real Kakashi in a sonic boom and told him, I can track sound, so when you questioned me a second ago you made yourself known. Kakashi's eyes widened before he was hit dead center of his back, and it felt like he was hit by fucking guide twice, and after he had released the first two of the 8 gates. He was sent flying, skipping across the water's surface before he was able to right himself. He was about to ask another question when Sakura cut him off. Before you even ask, look at my fist, she said, lifting it. Kakashi looked closely and noticed it looked like she took her sound armor and condensed it around her fist. This Kakashi-sensei is my Odaton beat fist. It complements my personal taijutsu style, which I call Banshee's Cry. To make this I create a pocket of extremely tight sound around my hand, multiplying the damage of my punch, making it 10 times stronger than they would have been otherwise. Kakashi turned pale at this and questioned, how am I still alive? That punch hit me in my spine. At that strength it should have severed it, if not turned it to dust. Sakura looked at him with a cheeky smile and said, the moment I hit you I also released a massive influx of medical chakra directly into your spine and other internal organs, because those would have been liquefied if I hadn't. Kakashi turned an uneasy pale color. After regaining his composure he told her, well, we only have a minute left, so use that time to try and finish off all my clones. Okay, but that will only take a few seconds, she quipped. Kakashi was reasonably surprised by her statement but was silenced when she roared, Odaton, Raiden combo. Thunder noise, she screamed, the yellow gem on her arm glowing. She released a golden cloud of sound upward into the sky. The sound radiated the cloud. The sounds became louder and louder before the cloud exploded into 15 lightning bolt projectiles that took the clones out faster than they could react. Kakashi didn't even hide his shock at this attack, since his jaw mask and all had hit the water's surface and kept going. Sakura brushed off the dust on her shoulder and walked towards the shore, passing Kakashi, who just continued to stare at her as she passed until she gave him some advice. Kakashi-sensei, if you keep that up you'll drown, and she continued on her way. Kakashi picked up his jaw and walked ashore. When he got there he saw Naruto pouting and Sasuke smirking up a storm. His eyebrow rose as a sort of unasked question. Sasuke took note and told him, we had a rock-paper-scissors match for who went next and I won. Kakashi nodded and let Sakura heal the bruises that had formed in their fight. As it appeared she only healed his internal injuries with the influx, not that he was complaining. Kakashi then noticed something. Sakura, how were you able to use your Just You without hand signs? Sakura, having finished healing him, said, oh that, well, actually all of us have practiced using most of our Just You to the extent of not needing hand seals, though sometimes we still do so as to throw our enemies off guard when we just stop using them, giving us an edge if necessary. Kakashi nodded and I smiled. Sound logic. Okay Sasuke, you're up next, he said, getting up. Now would you prefer fighting on land or water? He questioned. Land sounds good, Sasuke replied shortly. Very well, get ready. Kakashi finished getting into his stance. Sasuke versus Kakashi. Kakashi and Sasuke stood across from each other, evaluating their opponent, looking for weaknesses to exploit. When they couldn't find any they both jumped back and went through hand seals. Both finished at the same time. Kakashi exclaimed, Sweden. Water dragon. Summoning a large sea serpent of water from the lake he guided it towards Sasuke. Sasuke countered with, Enten. Hellfire stream. Launching a beam of black flames straight at the dragon. The flames cut through the dragon, not even being slowed in the least. Kakashi dodged the flames with seconds to spare and was already performing another Just You. Raiden. Beast running. Kakashi conjured a hound made of blue and white lightning and directed it to Sasuke's position. Sasuke didn't bother dodging, he stood there and stated, Enten. Wall of flames. Sasuke created a wall of black flames to defend himself. Kakashi didn't take to that well and redirected his lightning beast to jump over the wall, but as soon as it got over it was destroyed by Sasuke's chain, which was glowing a burning red. Sasuke turned to where Kakashi was only to see he was gone. Now where did he go? Sasuke mused. Up, left, right, behind. He turned as he listed each direction off. Each was also wrong. That leaves. He didn't get to finish as Kakashi burst from the ground beneath him, knocking him into the air with a well-placed fist to the jaw. Sasuke regained his composure mid-air and back-flipped to gain distance. Kakashi's eyes smiled and sighed happily. Ah, Doden. Hiding like a mole, it never fails me, he said beamingly. Sasuke's eye twitched at Kakashi's snarky words and pulled out a scroll. He unrolled it and sent some chakra to the kanji on the paper. He summoned something Kakashi had never seen before. It looked like some kind of handheld cannon, only the metal was warped in various ways. Ghost Rider's shotgun. Kakashi thought it was better safe than sorry, so he started to run around in an attempt trying not to give Sasuke a chance to aim. Sasuke channeled his regular Kaiden affinity to the shotgun, igniting it in red flames. He then pointed in Kakashi's general direction, if not just ahead of him, and pulled the trigger, unleashing a massive burst of pure Kaiden energy. Kakashi was barely able to dodge the majority of the blast but did escape with some minor burns on his right arm and leg. He cringed but still moved towards Sasuke, throwing a shuriken and going through seals, exclaiming, "Ninpo! Shadow Shuriken!" The one shuriken became dozens. Sasuke saw this and jumped out of the way of the shuriken and charged his chakra to his hand, screaming, "Doden! Crater creation!" Slamming his chakra-infused fist into the ground, the area around Sasuke and Kakashi sank quickly, preventing Kakashi from escaping in time. The crater was quite deep, around 40 to 50 feet so, and 100 feet wide in all directions. Sasuke wasn't done yet as he yelled, "Enten! Black Flame Dome!" And as the Just You claimed, a dome of black flames covered the top of the crater, preventing escape and severely limiting Kakashi's options. Kakashi looked over his options and came to a decision, pulling out a scroll and summoning his father's Tanto. This was the White Light Chakra Saber. Kakashi returned the scroll to his pocket and then got into a stance, knees bent, sword reverse gripped and behind his back, and other arm out in front of his body. So that's the famous weapon of Konoha's White Fang. I could have sworn it was destroyed during the Third Shinobi World War, Sasuke said, slightly confused. Kakashi, slightly surprised at Sasuke's knowledge of his family's weapon, said, "It was, however I have had it repaired and improved. Granted, I haven't had to use it in a while." Sasuke nodded at the answer but was curious as to how it was improved, simply shrugged it off before having to dodge a blade of white light. Sasuke looked at Kakashi to see that he was standing like he had swung the Tanto. Sasuke grinned. "This will be fun." Sasuke rushed at Sasuke, dodging the blades of white chakra along the way. When he reached Kakashi, he sent a chakra-enhanced punch to his face, only for Kakashi to substitute with a rock nearby. The rock was turned to gravel by Sasuke's punch. Kakashi took advantage of Sasuke's momentary distraction and ran towards him. Sasuke saw this and screamed, "Hidaden!" Final passing. The ground in front of Kakashi split open and black and purple smoke exploded out, creating a wall. Kakashi thought this wouldn't stop him and attempted to jump through, only for him to hit the wall and it feel like he hit a wall of iron. Kakashi was forced to back up some and wait for the smoke to clear, but as it started to scatter, he could see Sasuke finishing some seals and saying, "Hidaden!" Wailing torment. Several balls of the same blackish-purple smoke were formed around Sasuke's body. Sasuke pointed at Kakashi and the orbs flew at him, letting out spine-chilling screams. If one were to look closely, they would see the faces in the smoke, showing that these were souls. Kakashi was pressed to dodge because as soon as he dodged one ball of smoke, another would attack instantly. He didn't even notice that one ball had somehow cut his weapon's pouch, so he continued to dodge and slash at the smoke balls until he found that the orbs stopped. He looked around to see he was surrounded, and Kakashi paled when he saw Sasuke going through more seals and said, "Hidaden! Soul Florida!" Sasuke was cut off by Naruto's voice. "Oi Sasuke, Kakashi-sensei, time's up!" He screamed, stopping Sasuke from killing Kakashi, which Kakashi was very thankful for. Sasuke sighed and dispelled the soul orbs, also releasing the dome of flames and raising the crater. Kakashi rushed over to Naruto and bowed to him, thanking him for saving his life. Naruto laughed at his sensei and said, "Sensei, don't thank me yet, we still have to fight and I plan on making it a very memorable experience for both of us," he said with a sadistic grin that said, "Now let's get you and the Teme healed up." Kakashi was crying inside thinking these kids were evil. He started to walk to Sakura so she could heal him. When he got there, she examined him saying he had several minor burns and some fatigue. Both were easy fixes for her. As she moved to Sasuke, Kakashi saw this as a good time to get some answers. "Sasuke," Kakashi said, getting his attention, "how did you have control of those black flames?" he asked seriously, knowing exactly what they were. Sasuke just sat there letting Sakura heal him. Staring at Kakashi, he closed his eyes and then opened them, showing Kakashi his Sharingan eyes, only they looked like a six-sided red star with a black Y shape inside the star. This shocked Kakashi. He asked shaken, "Sasuke, what is that?" Sasuke replied, "These are my eternal Mangekyo Sharingan." Noticing Kakashi's gobsmacked expression, he continued to explain, "As you were already told, Kurama enhanced our bloodlines to the absolute limit and then broke that and kept going. What he did to me was give me the perfected Sharingan without any consequences and total control over the souls of hell," he finished. Kakashi was in a word floored. He didn't know how to respond. Then he noticed something. Sasuke said, "Wait, those orbs were the damned souls of hell." Kakashi shouted. Sasuke nodded at this. Bored of Kakashi emotional montage now. Kakashi held his head in pain as he tried to process this. After a minute of pain, he simply said, "Naruto, get ready, I want something to get my mind off of what I was just told." Kakashi vs Naruto. Naruto smiled and nodded happy. It was finally his turn. He jumped into position on the shore of the lake, standing on the sand with a grin. "Okay Naruto, on 3 inches," Kakashi told him. Naruto nodded. 1. Naruto tensed. 2. Naruto got in his stance. For his combo style he called Fox Frenzy. His left arm bent up next to his face. Right arm bent in a thin V shape at his side. Knees bent and leaning forward. And the left side of his body facing forward. 3. Naruto was off in an instant, rushing Kakashi, who was a little surprised at this action, at high Jonin speeds, leaving him with insufficient time to prepare for the assault Naruto gave him. Naruto started with a straight punch which Kakashi blocked, followed by a kick to the hip. This turned Naruto around, allowing him to get an elbow to the chest. Since Kakashi was recoiling from the hip shot, Naruto flipped over Kakashi, getting behind him, and launched a dual fist shot to the back. Kakashi substituted with a nearby log, which became toothpicks. Kakashi was still in pain but pushed through it in order to continue, as Naruto wasn't just aiming to hurt him, he was aiming to knock him out. Clear and simple. Those hits were all aimed at specific spots that would lead to unconsciousness if hit hard and fast enough. The only reason he was still awake was because of his instant response to charge chakra to the areas to prevent damage. Naruto frowned at his combo being broken, then smiled as an idea came to him. He looked at Kakashi, who was terrified by the evil grin on Naruto's face, and showed his collarbone with the kanji for 9 masks and said, "I think it's time to bring out some help." Kakashi didn't waste time when Naruto said that and was already half through the set of hand signs and exclaimed, "Summoning Justu." Ninken. A poof of smoke later and a pack of 8 nin hounds appeared. Look up Kakashi's summons. "Oi Kakashi, why were we summoned here?" asked Pakun, the small summoning boss for the dog clan. Kakashi was about to reply when he heard, "Summon 5 holy beasts." Kakashi's eyes widened at that as he, Pakun, and the rest of the pack turned towards the smoke to see 5 creatures. All were wearing a white mask that fit their species, with 3 oval eye holes, 2 where they normally were and 1 in the center of their foreheads. One resembled a Chinese dragon with sapphire blue scales. Another a phoenix with red and gold feathers. A white tiger. A giant tortoise with segmented plates for a shell. And a great golden snake, Menma's masked beasts. Kakashi and his Ninken stared in shock at what was summoned, but the only thing Kakashi could muster out was, "But there are only 4 holy beasts." Naruto replied, "That is where you are wrong. While it is not that well known, there was a 5th, a golden serpent, that set the boundaries to which each of the other 4 ruled. It had just enough power so that should any of the beasts become greedy for more land, it could defeat them and prevent total destruction through a war of the 4 beasts. Its name is Kinja." He said cheekily, "These 5 are 5 of Kyuubi's tails given form and sentiency so that they may battle." He finished, very much enjoying this. Kakashi and his Ninken were beside themselves with what they were told. Pakun decided to talk. "Kakashi, you handle the kid, we got the beast, okay?" "Very well, I will trust you, but be careful," Kakashi said finally. "Hey, now where's the fun in that?" Pakun said, grinning at what looked like a good fight. He yelled, "Go!" and with that they charged the beasts, leading them away from Kakashi. Ninkin vs Beasts. Seryu the Azure Dragon, Byakko the White Tiger, Suzaku Heaven's Phoenix, Genbu the Black Tortoise, and Kinja the Golden Serpent. If you're anything like your legends, then this is going to be one hell of a fight, said Pakun with reverence as he looked at the beast and formulated a plan. So let's begin. Circle and destroy, directed Pakun to his pack. Doden. Earth spikes, he said, trying to give his pack time to execute their tasks. As the spikes reached the beasts, Byakko jumped on Seryu's back and got behind Genbu, while Suzaku grabbed Kinja with its talons and took off into the sky. Genbu's shell plates launched off his back and formed a shield in front of him, protecting him from harm and stopping the spikes. Pakun gritted his teeth, knowing that Genbu was going to be troubling with it, always covering for its allies. Just then the pack got into positions and Pakun ordered, "Attack!" Bull roared. Doden. Terra rising. This just you rose the pack and beasts up high in the sky until they meet Suzaku and Kinja up there. Urushi, Shiba, and Bisque all resounded. Futon. Barkblade. All three let loose multiple blades of wind from each bark. Yuhei and Garuko shouted, "Kaden! Burning Run!" Both started to chase each other as they ran around the beasts in a circle, quickly creating a tornado of fire that increased the windblade's power. Akino sounded, "Raiden! Thunder Howl!" He howled, releasing a bolt of lightning directly above the beast. It split into 5 different bolts into the fire tornado and struck all of them. Pakun finished by screaming, "Doden! Canine Armor!" The earth rose and formed thick armor and jumped up and over the tornado. When he reached the top he yelled, "Kaden, Doden combo! Meteor Strike!" Pakun's earth and armor began to heat up as he fell, gaining more energy from the fire and wind. He started to spin, gaining more power until he struck Suzaku, plowing it into the ground, creating an explosion that almost pushed the pack over the edge of the platform. When the dust cleared, Pakun was standing on Suzaku's back until it dispelled. "Nice one," called Shibi before he was forced to dispel by blue flames from Seryu. "Shibi," called the rest of the pack, who tuned to face their opponents, pissed that they defeated Shibi. Pakun jumped back to his pack's side and stared at the remaining 4 beasts. All of them were burned or covered in cuts. He knew it wouldn't take much more, but that could be said for his side as well, as that formation took a lot out of them, so he asked, "Any ideas?" "Hey, leave the dragon to me and Bisque," said Urushi. Bisque nodded. "Very well, go," said Pakun, knowing what they would do and that it would decrease their as well as their enemies' numbers. "Ready?" asked Bisque. "Ready," replied Urushi. "Kaden, Raiden, Kamikaze." They both charged the dragon head on their bodies, being covered in their respective element. Seryu saw they were coming for it and shot another round of flames to stop them, but the two joined together to form a drill of Kaden and ration energies and rammed him, exploding, sending all 3 back to where they came. Pakun saw this and mentally thanked them for their hard work. He then turned to Bull and said, "Get rid of the turtle." Bull grinned and looked at Genbu, who was charging him for a change. Bull chose to do the polite thing and meet it halfway with a friendly headbutt. Genbu didn't take well to being matched in strength and rose one of its legs to knock Bull away. However, Bull ducked and got a perfect shot with his Doden Earth Claws, making his claws like spears, and impaled Genbu's head, but not before one of Genbu's plates shot off its back and also impaled Bull's back. Both dispelled simultaneously, and the platform no longer maintained by Bull started to recede to the earth. Byakko stepped forward for the next fight. Yuhei and Garuko stepped forward for this one. Byakko was the first to act, swinging its claws, unleashing a lot of wind blades. The dog duo dodged most of them but got nicked a few times, but during their dodging they got closer to Byakko while charging chakra. When they got close they said together, "Sweden, Raiden combo." Shockstream. Uhi spit up a large blast of water while Garuko electrified the stream with ration energy in his paws. Byakko tried to dodge by jumping, but the duo saw this and redirected the stream for the mid-air tiger and got, as they would call it, a truly shocking experience. Byakko wasn't going down alone, so using what strength it had left, it charged all of it to its mouth and let loose a beam of white chakra, hitting Yuhei and dispelling him while knocking Garuko away. Byakko dispelled, having used up all of its chakra. Garuko wobbled back towards Pakun and Akino, smiling, and said, "Your turn," before collapsing and returning to the summons realm. Pakun sighed and gave Akino a look that said, "Follow my lead." Akino nodded and both tensed as Kinja slithered toward them. Kinja stared at the two remaining dogs and without warning shot its spear-like tail at them. Both dodged. Pakun was running up Kinja's serpent body and Akino was on the ground distracting the beast, which didn't work as Kinja quickly sensed Pakun and was currently attempting to toss him off, but Pakun was holding on too tight. When it couldn't throw him, it took another path by opening the mouth on its mask, showing its fangs. It lunged at Pakun only for Akino to tackle Pakun and take the attack, dispelling him. Pakun watched as his friend and ally as dispelled and chose now was the time to end this. He and Kinja stared each other down until they both struck and ended up across from the other back to back until Kinja's head fell off and it was returned to Naruto's tattoo. Hell, that kid's got some tough summons. I wonder what else he's got. Pakun mused before returning home to check on his friends. Kakashi vs Naruto. Kakashi watched as his hounds went off to fight the beasts, and when they were out of sight and then turned to Naruto and said in a somewhat sarcastic, "You just never run out of surprises, do you?" Naruto just grinned, unsealed his chakrams and said, "Nope, and we've only got 3 minutes left, let's make them count." He then charged chakra to his weapons and screamed, "Kaiten, Fuuten combo. Firestorm." As he spun his weapons, he formed a tornado of fire, very similar to the one they could see in the distance. As it rushed along its course, it turned the sand to glass. Kakashi countered with, "Sweeten. Water dragon, water encampment wall." Forming a water dragon to dull the fire gave the wall enough leverage to withstand what remained of it. Kakashi threw a shuriken calling, "Ninpo. Shadow shuriken." Dozens of shuriken flew at Naruto, who just stood there with his eyes closed. When the shuriken were only a few feet away, Naruto's eyes snapped open and the shuriken just stopped in midair and fell to the ground. Kakashi had seen too much today to any longer be shocked and rushed Naruto to try and finish this, but Naruto met him again, this time using his chakra to make claws. Kakashi asked, "Why not just use the form you showed us in Hokage-sama's office?" as he disengaged Naruto. Naruto responded, "Because I used 5 of Kurama's tails to form the 5 holy beasts, meaning until they return to the seal then Kurama is tired, so that is a no-go." "Interesting, by the way, you've got 1 minute left, so bring it." Kakashi finished going through hand signs. "Gotcha," replied Naruto, going through his own. He thought might as well go out with a big bang. Kakashi finished first, yelling, "Raiden! Thunderdrop!" The sky turned dark and a massive bolt of lightning dropped towards Naruto. Naruto finished his own, exclaiming, "Hakaton! Gravekeeper's dragon!" A spectral dragon formed out of a massive tombstone that grew from the ground behind Naruto and went on a crash course with the bolt of lightning. Both clashed and exploded, sending both Naruto and Kakashi flying towards Sakura and Sasuke, knocked out. Sakura huffed and started to heal them, mumbling about people going overboard too much. When Naruto and Kakashi had awoken from their nap, they stretched their limbs and thanked Sakura. Naruto then spoke, "So how we do?" he said with a happy smile. Kakashi's eyes smiled and told them, "I'll go over each of you. Sakura, you have a good arsenal with your sound just you, and you combo just you was powerful, if not a little too draining for now. Your taijutsu, given a little more practice, will be unbeatable and its power is devastating. You also have good supplementary moves, so overall based on what I've seen I'd place you at mid to high Jonin level." Sakura beamed at her evaluation and said, "Thanks, sensei." Kakashi nodded and turned to Sasuke. "Sasuke, you had overwhelming power in your just you. Your weapon handling is top-notch, and you show good strategy. I was unable to get a good reading on taijutsu, but I suspect it's very good, and you did all of that without using your Sharingan, so I will place you at high Jonin to low Anbu level." Sasuke smirked and nodded his head. Kakashi finally turned to Naruto, who still had a smile plastered on his face. "Naruto, your justice are amazing. You didn't use your chakrams much, but when you did you used them well. Your taijutsu would have taken anyone under Anbu level out very easily, whether you were trying to kill or knock them out. Your summons left me wide-eyed and very close to a heart attack. Based on this, I'd rank you at the same level as Sasuke. Good job, you three, you're more powerful than anyone your age should be," Kakashi informed them, smiling. Then he thought some things over. "Though I have a nagging suspicion you were holding back." "Takes one to know one, sensei," replied Sakura. "What do you mean?" questioned Kakashi. Sasuke answered this time, "She means you were limiting yourself to high Jonin level, mister." 4 more Anbu caption. This astonished Kakashi. Then Sasuke finished, "Plus you didn't use your Sharingan." Kakashi was too busy calming down to continue listening to this, so he just said, "Alright, let's head back to Hokage-sama and the clan heads. Okay." "Hi sensei." The three replied. As they all turned to walk back, they heard screams of terror coming from their left. When they looked, they saw Asuma and Kurenai being chased by teams 8 and 10 along with Hinata's army of skeletons and Shino's xenomorphs. As the sight passed by, Asuma and Kurenai screamed, "Kakashi, help!" Before running out of view. Kakashi just stood there for a second and said to his team, "Well, as much as I enjoyed that, we need them alive for mission, as I can't take all of you at once." He went to help, but as he jumped, the cut on his weapons pouch from his fight with Sasuke tore enough that a certain orange book fell out. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke all saw the book and knew what it was. They looked at Kakashi with pure rage. Kakashi didn't even notice the three as he went to pick up his precious. After he had picked it up, he turned to the three and saw their glares, and they said 3 words that scared Kakashi. "Perverts must die." This was all the warning Kakashi got before Naruto summoned the 5 holy beasts. Sasuke used his wailing torment, and Sakura was charging thunder noise. Kakashi took off to join Asuma and Kurenai before Naruto had even started to summon the beast. "Asuma and Kurenai, do you think Kakashi can help?" questioned Kurenai, just barely holding on to the pace she had going. "I don't know, but until we reach Pops we don't have many options," replied Asuma. All of a sudden they heard something. It sounded like a little girl crying. "No, not the ICHA," screamed Kakashi as he passed Asuma and Kurenai, not even bothering to help. The two looked behind them to see what had caused Kakashi of all people to scream like that. They wished they didn't, because they saw that their problem had increased with the addition of the 4 more Team 7 and all of their summons, just you, etc. The two eyes widened in fear and they started to run even faster, trying to beat Kakashi. Hokage and clan heads. The Hokage knew these kids were going to do something like this as he watched Naruto blast the Jonin in different direction. That's why he brought his crystal ball, so they could see what was happening. Watching Kurenai's fight, it was pretty basic until Hinata called out their formation. Glimpse of hell. From there everything went downhill. Hiroshi fainted when his daughter brought the fucking dead back to life. Sume was very interested by Kiba's "just you," but also worried as she watched him morph into a 6-foot wolf. Shibi was salivating at the sight of Shino's summon, which disturbed everyone else watching. Asuma's fight was interesting to say the least. The Hokage was about to go over there and beat Asuma silly for summoning Enma of all people to fight these children, and on top of that he summoned by accident King fucking Kong. Watching Choji fight Kong scared Choza, but by the end he couldn't be more proud of his son. Shikaku was still processing what he saw in Shikamaru's fight with Enma and that his son beat said monkey boss. Inochi was unable to get a read of Ino's fight, being that the crystal ball couldn't see into Asuma's mind, but his reaction after he woke up told them Ino did something they wouldn't wish on their worst enemies, and that Inochi was going to kill Asuma for burning Ino's face. Kakashi's fight was the most informative, with Sakura showing of her sound arsenal, Sasuke with his flames, M's, and soul control, hey rhyme, and Naruto with his summons and their battle, just you, and Taijutsu, but the Hokage would have to ask how he stopped those shuriken. The Hokage's musing was cut off by set of 3 screams of terror, a blur, and 3 Jonin now clutching his legs like toddlers screaming, "Save me, the Icha Hokage-sama." The clan heads watched the scene with some degree of shock that what these 3 were doing, but were cut off from questioning the sight by the arrival of the rookies and their army of hell who stood at the edge of the forest line. The Hokage took note of this and motioned for them to come over. The 9 did as told, dispelling their "just you" minus Kiba, and Sume asked, "Kiba, why didn't you return to normal?" Kiba replied while still in wolf form, "Mom, I don't know about you, but I don't feel like standing here naked in front of a crowd." He replied, getting blushes from the girls and giggles from some of the men. On to another subject. You 9 have performed exceptionally, however you will not be bumped up in rank no matter how strong you are. That in your group in the Chunin exams is one heck of a way to say look what we got and laugh at the other nations. The Hokage said, smiling, not even caring about the sweat drops on everyone else's faces. All of a sudden a random Anbu came out and told the Hokage, "Hokage-sama, the civilian council has called a meeting." The Hokage's eye twitched and he mumbled about saying something about greedy cocksucking assholes. He then turned towards the gathered crowd and said, "Everyone, we're going to the meeting. I think it's time to show the civilians why I am Hokage." Everyone said, "Hi." Then Kiba said, "Hokage-sama, is it okay if I meet you all there so I can go home and get some cloths?" he asked sheepishly. Very well, make it quick, the Hokage replied. Then Inochi realized something. Hokage-sama, I may be late for this meeting. The Hokage blinked and asked, and why is that, Inochi? Inochi turned towards Asuma while replying to the Hokage, because I still have to beat the ever-living shit out of your son for what he did to my daughter. The Hokage's sweat dropped at this and continued walking. Everyone else looked at the Hokage and asked why he wasn't helping his son. The Hokage replied, Inochi won't kill him and we don't have time to waste, so let's go, the Hokage motioned. Hi Hokage-sama, they all replied and followed.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.